All right, this recording will be a quick review of users and groups. You can follow along with me in the slides if you want. You will know when it is time to turn the page when you hear me go ding. Just kidding. Actually, you can just follow along. Okay, so let's talk about users and groups. This was all done in it1100, so there's some new stuff, but it's not all new. So, users and groups. You can practice or you can do some of these review commands that we're going to do by, if you SSH over to Scratch, you should be able to do some of these commands that we're going to do. Eventually, you'll need to set up your own virtual machine so you can do that as well. But, all right, so users and groups, perfect. Why do we have users and groups? Well, the main reason is so that we can control access, authentication, and authorization. So we can make sure that only those users that have provided valid credentials can connect to our system, and so they can only do exactly what we've allowed them to do. So by putting by putting users in groups allows for ease of administration to do some of those things. So a user account consists of username, user ID, primary group ID, Gecko's information, their home directory, what shell they should use, and the encrypted password. So let's go take a look at that. If I'm over here on Scratch again, if we look in etc password, this is the file that contains some of our users at least. Let me just take a look at, here's a user right here, Atlas. And Atlas, let's see if it contains all this information. So first we begin with the username, which is what we're looking at. Let's skip that X for a second. But that 1000 is the UID, which is the user identification number. Each user on the system is going to have a unique user identification number. This is going to be the group identification number, or GID. Each group in this system is going to have a unique group identification number, but multiple users can belong to one group. Gecko's information. So that is kind of the stuff, that is this stuff in the commas here. Typically it consists of maybe the user's first name, last name, their phone number, stuff like that. It's really not important on these systems of nowadays. Home is where we should go, where we should find their home directory. And then shell is the shell that we should launch. And normally it's going to be the bash shell. And you can see that there are some user accounts here. These are system user accounts that I didn't create. So there's normal user accounts and then system level user accounts that a lot of times when you install a particular service or something, a system account is created, and you can see that they don't have any login shell. This user called UUIDD should never log in, or this user called backup should never be able to log in. These are just accounts. We can have certain processes run under these different user accounts to kind of separate and control. We don't want to just give all these processes root access, because that's not good practice. Then the last thing is the encrypted password. Now, if we jump back to this X is representative of the encrypted password. It's not the encrypted password, but it's representative of it. So if we do a sudo cat, and I don't know if I can even do this, I don't know if I have sudo permissions, but cat etc shadow, let's try a sudo cat, etc shadow, and I don't think you guys will have this, but this is the shadow password file, which if I look at Atlas again, there is the encrypted password all the way over to this colon that ends it. And then those are some other numbers that we'll talk about later. But that's where the encrypted password is technically at. And we saw those in etc password. Group accounts then consist of our group name, GID, and list of members. So if we cat etc group, we can see that, for example, I have a group called Final Test. And there's no members in that group right now. Although by default, if there's a user called Final Test, he will automatically be in that group. here's a group called Atlas. So when I create a new user using the add user command, it will create a user called Atlas, and it will also create a group called Atlas, and by default, that user will be in a group of the same name.